Flipping it up and out. Bogut! Ariza blocked by Bogut.
Good recovery by Andrew Bogut.
Let's get rogue.
Welcome to Rogue Bogues Basketball Series. Myself, Andrew Bogut, Mike Procopio, Pro. How goes it at the other side of the world?
Not bad, Bogues. Got an interesting email to wake up to. Our sound guy, the highest paid sound guy on the planet, was emailing me about our referee discussion. I'm not really going to go in detail because he'll make my list, sound about 8,000 times worse, if I expulge our dealings and talkings. But he's a referee himself. He agreed with some of the things that we were talking about respect of the officials. And so I'm glad the sound guy was good. And then the problem was after the email, he invoiced me fucking $850 for emailing me back. The fucking prick always makes out. But no, it was good. It was good. It was very well.
You call him the sound guy as well. He's the producer. Steve does a great job for us.
Oh, he does fantastic work. And he takes my bullshit
sound
jokes,
guy.
which is great. No, it was good. It was cool. But we were emailing back and forth about the, how my feeling and stand is on the referee stuff. I'm glad he was listening, though. That was good. Listen to the show and not just taking the the $8,000 an episode that you pay him. He's actually listening and contributing. That's
Have you
good.
soundproofed your room yet, Pro? Have you soundproofed your room? That's
You know what I did? I put egg cottons on instead of the real stuff. I put egg cottons on, so it looks like a studio, but that shit doesn't do anything else.
What are egg cottons for the non-Americans? Are they cotton balls?
No, egg cottons that containers that eggs come in. They're styrofoam and they're bumpy.
Oh,
they look like
egg cartons. Fuck, your accent killed me, bro. I didn't know what the hell you got on about. It sounded like
the
something
kettle.
completely different.
That's like the kettle. That's like the fucking a little hypocritical about your
the
accent.
pot calling the kettle black, bro. Is that what you're looking for?
That's it.
Are you allowed to? Wait, hold on. Maybe we can't say that anymore. We might not be able to say that. So let's just move on.
Right. Touche.
Let's get rolling. Team of the weeks, Pro. What do you? I'm going to let you go first this week. Let's see what you got. What do you got for us?
The Orlando fucking Magic, of course, beating the Phoenix Suns and beating the Dallas Mavericks. Jamal Mosley has those guys rolling, and I believe because they blacked me out, I can't watch Dallas games unless it's national TV because they're on this Bally's network. Yeah, I told you last year they.
Is that the network or was that Rick Carlisle blacking you out of the games?
Well, he blacked me out of 6 years of my career, but besides that, my cable got rid of Fox Sports Southwest last year, so I couldn't watch Mavericks games because they weren't on my cable. Now they switched, so I switched to YouTube TV, and I don't know if you have YouTube TV or not, or if they even offered to you guys. It's unbelievable. So I was all psyched. I thought I was going to get the Mavs games. I'm good to go. And then I was fuckers switched to this thing called Bally's. I don't get Bally's. So I can't watch Mavs games unless it's on ESPN or ABC or whatever. So, but I watch a couple of days later, the league pass
replay
allows me to watch a replay. But I believe the Mavericks, when they beat the Mavericks Orlando wise, they beat them without their rookie Bonchero. So that's how you pronounce his name. But they're rolling right now. I mean rolling as far as playing hard, playing teams tough. Look, they're not a great team or anything, but they're standing tall. Those guys are playing people hard. They're staying in games against good teams, and then they escape and beat some teams. I think they're doing really well.
2 in a row. They won 2 in a row, Pro. They're 4-3 at home, Pro. They're 0-6 on the road. But yeah, I agree. They're a tank candidate, really, and you love to see tank candidates fight. So they're doing well, I think. Bol, has established a good role there.
No doubt.
I had him on Luka for a bit. Did you see that?
Yeah. And this is a kid that, look, I watched when he was in college, high school. I worked with him a little bit at the Nike camp in LA before he went to Oregon to play. And he was okay. I thought he was a little bit overrated, decent. And then he sort of came out of the gate pretty slow, in his career. And he sort of got revitalized. I want to say he got traded once or twice. He moved around in his short career, and then look, he found a place in Orlando. They're not a great team. there's minutes for him there, and then Jamal Mosley does a really good job, and their development staff does a good job with developing players a little bit. And look, guy's averaging 11-7. He was on the scrap heap, and look, he's even getting production out of Mo Bamba, my guy. So not that he's putting up Wilt Chamberlain numbers at 6-3, but he's doing a lot better. So, but they're doing well, man. I'm like, look, they got Franz Wagner, he's doing well. Bonchero's doing well. Wagner's averaging 18-5. Bonchero's averaging 24. He's, the top rookie in the league right now. And then Wendell Carter is averaging 18-9 solid. But dude, those guys just like they get after it. They get after you defensively. They're cheering for each other. They're a fun team to watch, and they get energy. Look, like I said, they're not going to be a great team. They're probably going to start tanking. Probably come January, February, they're like, all right, that's great. We got a couple of headlines. Let's pump the fucking brakes and let's try to get the Frenchman. But up to this point, they've been they've been pretty consistent. So good for them.
Yeah, real good for them. Good for them, and they're desperate to recapture some of that success they had earlier on in the last decade, or probably 2 decades ago now, mid to 2006 to 2010, 11, 12. They were really good. Yeah. So we'll see how that goes. I had the Washington Wizards, they solidified my pick just minutes ago, finishing with a victory versus the Memphis Grizzlies, even though that was without Ja Morant. I'll still take it. They're 4-0 this week, pro. They beat Charlotte, they beat Dallas, they beat Utah, they beat Memphis. They've had some interesting lineups. I mean, Porzingis in and out still. Kuzma was sick. He played through that. He had a really big night the other night where he popped a bunch of threes, was caught fire for a little bit there. But, it's a team that I think I might have had them out for New York. I can't remember exactly. I had them 9, 10, 11. Mm-hmm. And they're surpassing expectations. Now, they were in the same position last season. They came out of the gates really well. I think they were in the top 4 for a bit last season, pro, and then they just, shit hit the fan for them. Everything kind of collapsed around them. But they've been fun to watch. I mean, Beal, obviously, they go as far as his health takes them, and that's been a big question mark for Beal throughout his career. Can he stay healthy? Can Porzingis stay healthy? So far, so good. And even with their odd rest nights or tendonitis or soreness kind of nights, they've continued to play hard and play well, and they have a decent squad. I mean, Avdia, who was a first round pick for him, has improved a lot. Kuzma's Kuzma. They got Kisper's been playing well for him. Monty Morris has been playing well for him. Hachimura coming off the bench for him. Will Barton, seasoned veteran, who can get it done. So they have a bunch of guys. Gafford was, he was really, really good for him last season. Not playing as much, but still in the rotation. So they have a bunch of guys that are they feel kind of Utah Jazzy, kind of to an extent, with probably two bona fide superstars. Where kind of a lot of guys that are forgotten about, that no one's talking about, other than Porzingis and Beal. But yeah, I'm liking the Washington Wizards. They're looking good, and it looks like they're going to be very competitive, well coached, and they play hard.
Yeah, without question. Like you said, Bradley Beal, it's going to come down to his health. Obviously Porzingis' health, but they've been sort of figuring it out. I'll tell you one guy who's really balling out. I think that's the first time I've ever fucking used that terminology in my life, and probably the last. But Kyle Kuzma has been playing really well. Not saying Kyle Kuzma's playing well, but using the phrase balling out. But Kyle Kuzma at 19-7. I think he had like 36 last night. Those guys just play hard. And Hachimura, who had some mental health issues last year, I don't even know how much he played. I don't even think he played most of the year last year. Getting a lot of play out. Yeah,
he came back a little bit with that mental health stuff, and then was out again, and then was back again.
Yeah, and they're getting a lot of good production out of their bench. Look, they had that great trade, in my opinion, that they made, to get Will Barton last year. I'm a big Will Barton fan. He's a little inconsistent, but he's good. He's like a really good fourth option, and he gives them some stability there. He's averaging 9-3. Obviously we talked about Porzingis and Beal. Look, I think Porzingis is really good when you use him in the right, the right frame, just sort of like the right role. When you're not just playing through him the whole time, and you just allow him to post him up once in a while, hit him on the trail, pick and pop to a drive, let him face guys up, let him post up switches. when you get him in the right opportunity, he's going to be good. He's a really good player. I don't think he's an elite great player, but that's not a knock on him. But I just think that that's where he's at. And Bradley Beal, like, look, I think Beal now I think he's got to really look and say, all right, we really, my health hasn't been great and we haven't been very good the last couple of years. I think we got to figure out how to win games and how to put people in position to be successful and know where to put guys and when. They're not really getting much production out of their first round pick, their lottery pick, Johnny Davis. He's not doing much, but I'll tell you who's gotten a lot better is that Corey Kispert guy. I think he's a second year. Yeah, Kispert, like he was a shooter. I think Gonzaga, if I'm not mistaken, averaging about 8 and 2. And not bad. Look, he's not going to make the Hall of Fame or anything, but they're pulling for each other. They're playing well, And look, it's early, but they're 7-6, man. And I think I had them above New York.
8-6 pro. They beat Memphis. Come on, man. 4 in a row. They beat Memphis. Stop the disrespect. They're 8-6.
Fucking asshole. The king of disrespect over here is telling me not to be disrespectful. I appreciate that, you asshole. But yeah, you know what? My bad though, Bogues. I'm going to do what 98% of the American and world public won't do. Admit when I'm wrong and just say I fucked up. So, hey, Kyrie Irving should take fucking notes. Bogues, I'm sorry. I apologize. And hopefully it won't happen
Don't say
again.
sorry to me. Say sorry to the Wizards. The disrespect. I mean, they're just trying to get it done. They're trying to get to the promised land, man. The Washington Wizards. We don't talk about them much, and we're finally talking about them. You're just shitting on their record.
It's record, you asshole, not record. You James Bond wannabe motherfucker. But go ahead, let's go.
All right, my honorable mentions this week for tweet of the week, team of the week. Indiana Pacers. I think I had them as dead last.
Yeah, me too.
Season, but I thought they'd be awful. I thought they'd be in the full tank mode. They're 6-6. Good balance. Carlisle definitely got them playing well. Boston have to be mentioned as well. They've won 6 straight, but I'm not giving them full credit for that because they played Detroit twice in that 6 straight span. And look, we try to go with different teams every now and then. Boston could obviously win it every other week with the way they've been playing. So I got to give them a shout out as well. But that's my honorable mentions. Any for you, Pro?
No, I'll definitely co-sign the Pacers. Look, this is a perfect Rick Carlisle team. Like they're underdog. Guy fucking hates to lose. He's not guy's not a tank kind of guy, and he's always competitive at everything he does. And this is a good team for him because it's under the radar guys. He's got a guy like Halliburton who's doing well. Look, arguably they got probably a top 2 rookie, and I think I'm gonna fucking butcher the kid's name, but Mathurin averaging 19.9 a game, 20 points, 4 rebounds. Yep. Yeah, besides Bonchero, he's probably gonna be up there, first team all rookie. The guys, he's sort of got the makings of an all-star. They're playing hard, and there's not a lot of expectations there. There's plenty of time to lose games, especially if they trade these guys, Turner and Hield. But look, Turner's averaging 17-9, Hield's 18-6. They're playing hard, man, and they compete, and that's the type of team that he's good with. No superstar that he has to sort of coach around, just sort of good players across the board that he could just sort of do what he does. And, this guy's a driven coach. We're not on each other's Christmas list, but I'll give the guy some credit when his credit's due. I think he's, this is a perfect team for him. So he's good. I think they're in a good mode. I think past January, just like the Orlando Magic, you're going to see some guys out with with the flu or with something else to get them out of games.
COVID's back, Pro.
COVID's back.
So,
my bad. I didn't turn on CNN this month, so I didn't know that. But yeah, you're right.
It's back.
It's back. Nice. So.
Yep. All right, now, Pro. Look, we've got some feedback. The people out there, one person in particular, has emailed and said, look, he's kind of confused by the team of the week versus the team of the week. I thought it was pretty clever because it's a pretty decent play on words, and it's the same abbreviations, TOTW. So we're taking suggestions on how we rename the second team of the week, which is the shitty team of the week, Pro. You got any suggestions or thoughts on how we should rename it? I've got one. It's team of the motherfucking week. That then implies that they're shit. But that's about as far as my brain could take me, Pro. You got any suggestions for us renaming that?
Yeah, I mean, my suggestion would be that for the person who emailed you, they can't tell the difference between the two. That, I know it probably takes them about 4 hours to make minute rice and takes them 3 hours to watch 60 Minutes. But like, I think the guy should, should read a dictionary and figure out that
Don't shit on our
WEEK.
listeners, bro. Come on, man.
A
You said we
listener.
only have 2 or 3 listeners,
Yeah,
and
we get
we're going
10.
to lose one now. Now we're down to 2.
That's all right. Pat Beverly's got
But
a
yes.
podcast now, so you can go to him.
But yes, you some advice. Once you're within the first sentence of either of these team of the week, you can kind of get a feel for the direction of which one it's about.
How about team of the week, team of the weeker? I mean, like
team of the
I
week.
like week.
Yeah, there you go. See,
Yeah, there you go.
I like
now-
week too. I think it's
now-
just a clever play on words.
Now, fuck, I ain't gonna say it because I wasn't in kindergarten when I was 12 years old. Like, I actually had an education that I could know the difference between week and week, but that's just me. So no offense to the person who wrote in, emailed in, wrote. My thing is, did he write his letter in crayon or was it actually pen? Was it, what was it?
we love our listeners. We love our listeners. If you want to roast from pro, write in with more suggestions for the show.
I'm trying to get on
noticed
Cameo.
that.
I'm trying to get on Cameo, so this is good practice for that.
But yes, the differentiator is usually the first sentence. You can tell if we're in a positive mood or we're shitting on someone, you can kind of feel. But maybe we'll explain it a little bit better. But anyway, this is the team of the week, and it's Minnesota. I'll give you a tip: they're not that good. They're not that good. So this is the week. But they did just win as we do this podcast. They beat Cleveland in Cleveland. A good win. No Donovan Mitchell. Not the greatest of wins. There were other candidates. The Lakers have lost 5 straight. They're definitely an honorable mention for me. Cleveland's actually an honorable mention. They've started off with a bang and they've lost 4 straight.
Ouch.
Remember, they started the season 8-1. They've now lost 4 straight. A couple of tough losses. Sacramento was in there. I think the Lakers were in there too. Maybe were they? No, they didn't beat. They beat the Lakers. Sorry, it was Sacramento that was a bad loss for them. They were up and they came back. Who would be the other one? Charlotte. They're horrible. They look bad. Balls back, and don't think that's going to change much. They've lost 8 straight. 3-11. They might be the underdog for Victor that we didn't pick, pro.
Yeah.
But yes, go ahead.
No, I think they're happy with this because look, they're not very good. Their roster, look, they got Ball. I'm not a huge Ball fan. I don't think you could win with him, but I think he is a little exciting to play if you like that sort of stuff. And then you pair him with, the French kid, you got something going. Why wouldn't you do this? Like, no one's expecting much out of you. You got a good coach that's coaching your team. Why not? In my opinion, you go for it. You just lose. No one's going to care. And if you get the kid plus Ball and then you can make some changes on your roster, you could be decent. But that's my feeling on that.
And don't forget, next season they'll have Bridges. Will have his ankle bracelet off. He'll be out of jail, so he'll be allowed to probably play a full season. So maybe they're building towards that. Let's just build for next season. Forget about this season. But we're not talking about them. They're honorable mentions. We're going to go back to Minnesota. Mm-hmm. The reason why I've got them in there is that I know you don't look too much into this stuff, pro, but I think it's important. Their strength of schedule, pro, for Minnesota is 27th in the league.
Damn.
And their record was 5-8. They're now 6-8 after they got a win against a depleted Cleveland. That's concerning. So they've had one of the easiest schedules in the league at 27, and they suck. Very concerning. Lost 3 straight this week. The Knicks, Suns, and Grizzlies all by double digits. Not one of those games was in single digits. Now, and we know the Knicks aren't setting the world on fire either. The Suns, no Chris Paul. Grizzlies have been up and down. Bro, it just looks like they hate playing with each other. It really does. There's the clip of Anthony Edwards. Those who haven't seen it, come out of a timeout. They're running a play, obviously not for Anthony Edwards, and he just stands there like just an asshole move. Play's not for me. I'm going to stand here and pout. Just stood there with his arms by his side, didn't move. That was concerning. If that wasn't as concerning for listeners out there that are Minnesota fans. A few games later, D'Angelo Russell forgets to check into the game after subbing someone out, stands at the scorer's table, and leaves the Minnesota Timberwolves with 4 players on the court in live play. And Phoenix come down, brick a 3, get the offensive rebound because they've got 1 extra man on the court, kick it out, hit another 3, knock it down. And then you wonder why Minnesota's 6-8. People might look at, it's the Gobert and the Towns thing. It just doesn't fit. I somewhat agree. Like, I think it's not the greatest fit. Like I've said, I think Towns is better offensively at the 5 because it creates mismatches. Putting him at the 4, he's got to, post up a little bit more. Can't do that as much because Rudy's already in the paint. And then on the defensive end, Towns just looks awful. Not a great defender as it is. You now put him at the 4 where he's guarding these quicker kind of KD types. That's a suicide mission for him. And then, you got Gobert in the paint. So there's that talk. But outside of that talk, the body language, Edwards has come out and said, I don't have a dunk this season because look at the paint. I can't get in there. Well, let me give you a tip. Like, there's a lot of guys. Vince Carter played in an era where there was Charles Oakley was at the 4 with a big 5-man, so he was still getting his dunks. Like there's always a way to do it. And I think they're kind of, they just look like they don't like each other, and this looks like it's going to implode before it really even gets a fair shake and a chance to see how it goes, Pro. I don't know what your thoughts are there.
Bogues, I totally agree with you with the bad fit as far as like, not bad fit, but the bad body language and the unprofessionalism. Look, I've never been a big fan of, being unprofessional for players. And, I've never been a D'Angelo Russell fan, and look, he hasn't been terrible, but he's not a guy that I'm trying to uplift my team with, right? And then Edwards got to understand that he's a good player. He's a really good player. But to take that next step, he's got to be, look, Russell sort of took the same attitude, early on in his career where like he would do these things that would be negative and put a negative light on himself as far as like the way he acted, some of the things that he said, some of the antics that he would do. And this is in the early stages of his career. Look, the talent's there. But what he needs to really do is, look, he's got to fight through this stuff regardless of, what's going on, winning, losing. He's got to really figure things out and have a better attitude about this. Carry himself as a professional. If you win, you lose, what have you. Learn from every deal and try to pick this thing up because, look, he's putting up numbers. He's 21-5, arguably their best player, but he came in out of shape a little bit during the beginning of the season. He hasn't been great, and he's got to try to find a way to pick this thing up. And yes, the Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy thing, it's not working themselves either. But, it's a combination of a lot of things. You got to pick each other up. You got to be professional. You got to fight through things. I haven't heard of a team-only meeting. I think they might want to start with that. As we say on the show, it doesn't start until we have a players-only meeting. Maybe they should start a couple of those. Maybe they already have had one, but Bogues, they're definitely trending in the wrong direction. And look, you traded about 72 draft picks to get Gobert, so there's no backup here. There's no backup plan. I don't think you're going to get anything for Russell in trade. I don't think you're going to get much with Karl Anthony Towns in trade. You'll get a little bit, but you're not going to make this move that's going to make you this much of a better team. This is what you have. You got the Edwards and Gobert show as far as your best 2 players. Then you got to deal with Towns, Russell, however you figure this thing out. But there's really no great young player they got saving them. There's no real trade they could make that's going to really make this thing, better. So they got to figure some things out. It's going to get ugly. I didn't even figure this 27th in schedule deal. This is ridiculous. So you're 27th in schedule, and this is your record. Yeah, that's going to be a rough one, man.
Not good. Who you got?
Dallas Mavericks, Bogues. Losses back-to-back. Look, you got to do it. You lose to Orlando, which you should not lose to. I don't care if you're on the home, you're on the road. They didn't have their best player, and they figured it out, and they didn't play. Look, you can't play up to competition. If you want to make a sort of a jump in your season, from last season to this season, you can't be losing to the Orlando Magic and the Washington Wizards. I don't care if it's a back-to-back. I don't care if it's on home or on the road. You got to figure some things out. And right now, they got to figure a lot out. JaVale McGee has gone from starter to, basically just, basically on the outside looking in. Then you got to figure this Dinwiddie thing out. Tim Hardaway Jr. has been very inconsistent all season. Dorian Finney-Smith, he does what Dorian usually does, averages about 10, but he's got to really up his game, he's got to give him 12, 13 a game. Reggie Bullock has been off and on. They really haven't had anything to really hang their hat on. Christian Wood's been better than advertised, in my opinion. He's averaging 15 and 8, 16 and 8, and he's done well. But Josh Green has been gotten a lot better. He's at one time during the last few weeks, he's one of the best 3-point shooters in the league. I obviously because he didn't attempt a lot, but two really bad losses. They've been inconsistent, and unlike last year where like COVID hit them and they went really cold. I mean, they're 7-5. They're not terrible, but losing to those two teams, you're like, wow. And I don't think it's going to be a big deal. I think they'll pick it up, but they got to figure out how good they are, Bogues, because they're different from last year, and they don't have Brunson. Obviously, they got to figure some things out, and I don't know where this is going to come from, in my opinion. Luka leading the league. I think leading the league, don't quote me on it, but leading the league in usage rate, one of the biggest of all time, with that. And at some point, someone else has got to, step up consistently. Now, Dinwiddie's been good, 18-5, but they got to get more out of their bench. They got to get more consistency scoring, because they can't just have Luka, score 41, Dinwiddie score 19, and then everybody else at 6, 7, 5, 5, 6. They need some help for sure. What do you think, Bo?
Yeah, I thought they were rolling before that. They won a bunch of games before that. They looked like they were starting to get in sync. But yeah, they're two bad losses. I think they're still trying to figure out lineups. JaVale McGee started. Jason Kidd famously saying in training camp that's our starting center. Well, that didn't last very long. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's something seems amiss there. I'm not sure what it is right now. I thought they had a pretty good balance. I think Dinwiddie's better off the bench in my opinion. But then what do you do with Hardaway Jr.? I mean, it's all over the place. And my worry is, Luka's usage, whether it is one, you're right, or whether it's top 3, I don't know what it is exactly. But if let's say it is one. That's concerning that this early in the season, basically he doesn't play while they lose. And that's a pretty easy scout for most parts, right? Now, it's easier said than done. Stopping one guy, people might think is easy, but a guy like Luka Doncic is very, very hard. All the schemes and everything are all catered towards, limiting what he does, and he still has a 40-point triple-double, right? But, injury, overload, tiredness, the grind gets to him at some point and they go on a losing streak, that's a concern. They got to have a bit more balance. And that balance, unfortunately, has to go to Dinwiddie and Hardaway Jr. And I think Hardaway Jr. hasn't been great this season. Dinwiddie's been very inconsistent. Those two need to be much more consistent. Those two combined should at least take up the slack that Brunson left, right? And then you've got other guys, Dorian, Kleber, so on and so forth. Wood's been decent for him, but yeah, they're missing something. It just doesn't seem like it's clicking for him. I thought they'd be much better, but look, we are still somewhat early. But my concern is, does Luka, there's a lot of weight on his shoulders, man. And I know he embraces that and loves that, but you still want to have all the good teams still have, like Jason Tatum can have a 6 for 25 night and they can still win, right? The Warriors, Steph can have a bad shooting night. They can still win. Probably not so much this season, but for the most part, like historically, you look at all these teams that are at the top, the big top half of the standings. Milwaukee Bucks. I mean, geez, they go and beat OKC in OKC. Now OKC are no slouches. They're playing very, very good basketball, very team orientated basketball. They win that game with, Javon Carter. Was it? Is it Javon?
Yeah, Carter
has 36. I mean, that guy step up. Giannis was out. A few other guys was out. It looked like that was like, oh, okay, so he's going to get this one at home. The Bucks have circled this on the schedule, and we're going to rest guys, and they get the win. So I don't have that confidence in Dallas. I think Luka sits out, they lose straight away to me. Like he sits out a game, they're losing. until they can get to that point where they can at least, hold that ship steady for 2 or 3 games of the Luka injury or through a Luka bad phase of shooting nights, I'm not confident in Dallas Mavericks. And I think that's the biggest thing for me. Like, they got to be able to prove that they can steal a game here or there on a Luka bad night. As of today, they can't.
No, they can't. And playmaking's big. Like, Dinwiddie's not a bad playmaker, but like, they don't, like, those guys we talk about, Finney-Smith, Bullock, Kleber, Powell, they all need a playmaker, right? Like, Hardaway Jr. is pretty good creating for himself, but not a lot of those other guys are good at creating for themselves. They need that. And that's where Luka's the best, where you could just surround Luka by, with anybody, and he knows where and when to give it to him, where it puts him in a position to be successful and help them win. And when he's got an off night, and the shooting's been off and on for sure, but it's sort of what he's been dealing with his whole career, and it's been up and down with that. I think Brunson gave him a little bit different deal. Like, look, scoring wise, Dinwiddie sort of created what Brunson gave him last year, but I think what Brunson was better at. Now, Brunson's not a great playmaker with vision. Like, he's not a great passer or anything like that. He's good, shot maker, scorer, tough kid, plays smart. But they don't have that other playmaker now, where they just sort of missing that from off the bench. So it'll be interesting where they go from here, Bogues. But look, it's got plenty of season. They're fine. I still think they're going to be a top 4 team in the West or top 5 team in the West. I think they could still beat teams because of Luka now, but I think everyone else here now needs to step up just a little bit. You're not going to come out of character and go from averaging 8 to 18 or anything, but collectively, people just got to do a little bit more. And, you got to make it where, like, it can't just be the Luka show every night. A lot of other people just got to step up and just sort of play 5% better, 8% better, and figure out, where it's going to come from. Hardaway has really been the player that's been off most of the year. Look, last year before they made the trade, he got hurt. He got hurt for the year. So he really didn't get a chance to play with everybody, especially Dinwiddie, for the whole year. So but now he's got to find himself a little bit. That was last year. This is now. He's got to up his game. If there's anybody who could really step up, I mean, he's been shooting it very poorly. He's been erratic. He's got to step up and go from he's averaging 12 and 2. His numbers really ain't great. And then, shooting the ball, he's shooting at 33%, 33 from the 3 and 34 from the field. He's got to step his game up with this too. So it'll be interesting. They got plenty of time. I'm not really all that worried about it, but yeah, definitely this week from losing those 2 games, I was like, yeah, got to give it to him. And you can't give me shit about being a fucking hometown fan for the Mavericks like you did last year.
Yeah, it's changed. Maybe a little bit changes spots, bro. All right. Standings right now, just looking at them real quick. I'm going to give our surprises and our disappointments. I mean, we both would agree the Utah Jazz are number 1 in the West would be not just a surprise for you and I, but for the whole basketball NBA world.
Without question.
I mean, 10-4, what are they? 5-0 at home, 5-4 on the road, best record, I think, in the NBA bar. The Western Conference, and then you got Milwaukee and Boston with better records, but they should be commended. They've started the season so well, balanced roster, a bunch of just solid players that have just, goes a lot to say. Are they going to win championship like Pro said a couple of weeks ago? No, but they're solid and they don't beat themselves. You got to actually play hard and beat them. And I think a lot of teams have been stung by them early in the season by just rolling up thinking they're a tank team, and then they look at this box score at the end of the game and like, how did we lose that game? So I give credit to them. I think they're overachievers. Portland Trailblazers at number 2, right after them, overachieving, playing very, very well, especially when Dame went out. So they're 6-2 on the road, pro. So they're playing real well on the road, 3-2 at home. They're probably my overachievers I would have right now. Biggest disappointments in the West, the Lakers, Rockets expected. I think the Minnesota Timberwolves have to be in there, in my opinion. I think they've been disappointing from the get-go. The Warriors haven't been great out of the box. They're probably my 2 biggest disappointments up until this point. I think the Warriors bounce back and they'll make a playoff run here eventually. But those 2 teams, and then if we go out east, I think for me, Philly and Miami have been disappointing. Phillies injuries, guys in and out of lineups, I get it. But even when they had their healthy roster at the start of the season, they didn't look good. It looked janky. It didn't look like it fit that well. Embiid a little bit underdone out of the offseason, not fully healthy. Excuses, but they've been disappointing. The Miami Heat have also been disappointing. Now they've won 2 straight. They're on a bit of a streak to start off now, and they'll be fine. Both these teams are going to make the playoffs, in my opinion, still, but they've been disappointing to start the season. Overachievers out east, I think Washington and Indiana for me. I think Atlanta too. They're quietly snuck into 3rd place, by the way, but it is still early. But I think Washington and Indiana for me are the biggest surprises in the Eastern Conference. Pro, what do you have for us?
Yeah, sort of mimic most of the things you're saying, Bogues. Obviously Utah Jazz has been the huge star, of basketball, as far as like the 10-4 start. Playing well and just sort of on top of things. Portland Trailblazers are a lot better than I thought. It's early, of course, 20, 25 games in, that's when you want to start making calls. But at 9-4, really competitive, a lot more competitive than I thought. I thought they're doing a lot better. They're holding court. I got to give a lot of credit to the San Antonio Spurs. I thought they were going to be the Indiana Pacers with worse weather and with better weather and be one of the worst teams in the league. But they've been holding steady. I mean, they're not killing it, but they're 6-7, a lot better than I thought. Everything's sort of status quo for the most part. Look, the Mavericks are struggling a little bit. Phoenix is, sort of, they're 5th. It's not like they're 12th or anything, so they're doing okay. Memphis Grizzlies, right where we expect. I think on the other side of things, Washington Wizards has been a 8-6 record. They've been holding strong there. Indiana Pacers 6-6. We talked about that. Toronto Raptors thought they were going to be a little bit better coming out, but definitely the Heat. Definitely the Heat and the Philly have been very under par, for what you expect. Maybe you would expect it out of Philly because they're so heavy with Embiid, Embiid and Harden. If somebody's going to go down, they're really screwed. But you didn't expect that out of Miami. I don't think they've had a lot of injury issues this year so far. I might be wrong on that, but they just, for one reason or another, just not getting it done. And they've been pretty steady. Again, it's early, teams that still figure it out, but it's not like they had 8 free agents signed with them. They sort of have the same deal, and Tyler Hero's been decent, big contract he signed in the offseason. He's been pretty steady at 19-6. And Max Strauss has been really good at 16-4. Jimmy Butler at 22-7. They've got guys that are doing their thing. Bam Adebayo at 18-9. Excuse me. But for some reason they're just sort of underwhelming. And so that's sort of really what I have as far as the standings and teams that were sort of up and down on things. And I'll tell you what, the fucking Brooklyn Nets, from all what they've been doing through with the Kyrie Irving deal and the Ben Simmons debacle. Did they win 4 out of 5 without Kyrie or something like that? Did I read that correctly, Bogues? They're 4-1.
Yeah, they're playing well. They're playing better. They're definitely playing better. And Ben Simmons off the bench. Yep. Yeah, I've got that in our notes for our next topic. But they're definitely looking better. They're starting to get. I guess the rotation is starting to solidify the way they want to play. Like I said from day dot, the Clippers, the Brooklyn Nets of last season. It's hard, man, to be missing your star players every other game. It's just, it's becoming more and more noticeable. The teams that look at the Utah Jazz, no real superstars, but they're together. They know their rotations. These teams, it's easier to play that way. You know your role. I'm coming in. I need to do this. I need to do this for us to win. I need to do this for us to win. I need to do this, and it's if I don't do that, then blah 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 blah. Whereas some of these teams that rely on stars, resting and not resting, it can hurt you. Now Brooklyn kind of know, all right, this is the hand we've been dealt. This is our roster. We're not waiting on anyone. We're just going to play accordingly, right? And they're playing much better basketball now. League Pass update, Pro. I don't know if you got this on in the background. Utah Jazz might go down. Philly 101, Utah 98. Joel Embiid has had a night for the ages so far. There's 2 minutes left in this game. He has 55 points, 10 rebounds, 8 assists, 6 blocks and a steal.
Damn.
18 for 26 from the field, 1 for 4 from 3, and 18 for 22 from the line. He's balling. He's single-handedly carrying the Philadelphia 76ers past Utah Jazz. They win this game. Now, Utah Jazz starters weren't great, and they've gone to their bench. Sexton's playing well, Beasley's playing well. But just a quick update. I just saw a quick StatMuse. 50 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, 5 blocks in a game. That'd be the first player in NBA history with that line, bro.
That might be one of the.
Now he's up to 8 assists. So StatMuse shout out for that one. But that's Joel Embiid seems to have heard the detractors about him coming into this season a little bit slower than he has, and he is out of night to night so far. So we'll see I'll let everyone know if they win that game the next minute or two, pro. But hopefully they can start to get on a little run. All right, Jacque Vaughn takes over in Brooklyn. What happened, pro? Your boy Woj said that the Ime Udoka thing was a done deal. Do you think this is a part of Joe Tsai's moral compass that he's lecturing Kyrie and was about to hire a guy that has an investigation pending on him, and then came to the realization this might not look too good if I'm lecturing Kyrie, or they just chickened out from the bad PR? What's the deal there? Why do they go against what everyone thought was going to happen?
I think Tsai's moral compass is caught in the Bermuda fucking Triangle, to be honest with you. So I don't think he has one of those. But I think that I think if I had to be a betting man and a guessing man, and if I was gonna bet, I'd obviously do it with Dabble for sure, because I have to gamble responsible. I think I should be paid for. I think I should be paid for that ad, but that's just me. But what I would say is that Adam Silver was like, no, or they just got bombarded with organizations, with sponsors, with all that. Regardless of where anyone lies on this thing about how bad it was versus how bad it wasn't, when you have this overwhelming response to people in a negative tone about, and obviously, how it is. Everybody in the NBA is dictated by money, and not only money but publicity. And if it was going to go negative with this stuff, then I think that I think Adam Silver probably had to step in and be honest with you and be like, you know what, guys, we might want to pump the brakes on this thing. I don't think it was Joe Tsai. If I had to guess, maybe it was. I'm not an insider like that, so I'm just sort of going gut reaction that Joe Tsai would have been all for it. Look, if Woj. I think Woj and Shams had it out. And if Woj put something out, he's done his homework. He definitely got intel saying that, look, this is what's going to happen. He's probably at a 98.7 on his success rate with that stuff. And, I think it was more like it was out there. It took a couple of days. In that couple of days was probably got a lot of negative feedback. And like I said, if I had to guess, the league stepped in and be like, yeah, that shit ain't happening. So that's just me. What do you think, Bogues?
Yeah, I think the bad PR, I think Joe Tsai's, lecturing Kyrie and giving him 15 steps he needs to do to come back and do a somersault and then go to Brazil and stand on the holy hill and say a prayer and come back, and then he's allowed to play again, whatever other list of demands he has, which is ridiculous in my opinion. Regardless of, I disagree with whatever's been done, Kyrie posting that, not knowing what it was, but I strongly disagree with this list of punishments, and I'm glad some players have finally found their inner voice when it's about any other issue. They're loud and proud and out there. Well, I commend the few players that have actually come out and said, Jaylen Brown is one of them that said, no, this is too much. This is bullshit. So. I think they're just scared of the bad PR. There was something going on there, but who knows? Maybe Joe Tsai had a position, a former colleague of Ali Barber that called and said, hey, we need a good army commander type to run our little Uyghur slave camp there that's making all our products, and Udoka could be the man for the job, bro. I mean, you never know these days. Good old Joe Tsai that ran that company with some questionable practices. But yeah, I mean, look, I think they're starting to steady out with Jacque Vaughn. I think that he's starting to find kind of a mojo with that team. So I liked his comment. What was his comment around getting that job? I wasn't
by his wife.
Wasn't the
not being the second choice by his wife, and they've been together He was a second choice
Yeah.
of his wife, and he's been together forever or whatever, like 10 years or 12 years or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
Exactly. So it works out. He's a Spurs guy. He's got some of that Spurs blood in him. So the guys that seem to have responded well to him. And that's always the biggest question with these coaching hires is how do players like a Kevin Durant and those kind of guys respond to a non big name head coach. And I think they've responded. So I think he's been good so far. He's had the strength to bench Ben Simmons as well, and I think that's been a huge adjustment for them because I think it's freed up their starting lineup to play open and free without having to kind of think about Ben. Oh, how can we get Ben going? How can we get him going? His confidence, blah 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 blah. They're just going out and playing now, and Ben can find that form off the bench, and he hasn't played great off the bench, but he's tried when he's got out there. He's trying to be productive. His numbers aren't great, but they're winning. So I like the formula, and that's a ballsy move by Jacques Vaughn. He's only been in the job for 4 or 5 games, and he's benching one of their max guys. That's not an easy decision, believe me, and that can sometimes cause vibrations throughout a roster and throughout a club. But I'm sure he handled that the right way and met with him beforehand before it was all done. And I like the adjustment, ballsy move. And I think this could be a move that gets him back into the top 6, top 7, top 8, and hopefully competing for a good playoff spot, Pro. So great job by Vaughn. Josiah, not so much. And yeah, we'll see where they end up. But they'll be battling, I think, for a playoff spot when it's all said and done. Just a matter of where, Pro.
Yeah, I think that those guys are moving the ball. Look, sometimes it's good just to have one guy that really scores it, and then everybody else just sort of moving into the space, moving the ball, getting open looks, and they're playing well. I like Jacques Vaughn. Look, he didn't have a really good first head coaching experience in Orlando. It was pretty bad, actually. But I think the first time you coach, you figure it out. I think it's more important to figure out what you did wrong versus anything else. And I think he probably, being an assistant coach now, he's a scout in the league. I forgot where he scouted with, like after he got fired. I think he scouted maybe for the Spurs or maybe it was Brooklyn. I'm not sure, but he was definitely a, personnel guy, sort of watched the league for about a year or so, got back into coaching. And look, I think the best thing you can do at this juncture is not hire a new head coach and then a new guy that no one really knows that well. Although he was an assistant a couple years back, I think, Udoka, but he's been with them. He's been there in training camp. Those guys have been with him. I think you don't want to hire a new coach that really hasn't been around your team, and then you got to figure some things out, especially what they've been through, especially with I think it's a little volatile with the Durant deal as far as how much could he take until he says, you know what, I'm out. This is enough. This is enough fucking tomfuckery for one season. So having a guy like Vaughn who's been there all year, been steady, players obviously respect him. They wouldn't have hired him if that if that wasn't the case. I think having a guy like that that's steady and solid, that's and that players are rallying around a little bit, I think it's good versus hiring a new guy. You got to figure things out. He's been embattled. He's been off. Off on his own for the last month or 2 months or so. After this whole deal blew up in his face. So hiring a guy like that and then trying to steer the ship and that pressure of performing, I would rather hire a Jacques Vaughn and figure things out, and see what they got. Simmons coming off the bench, I like that as well. Look, they got a lot of good pieces, role player wise, guys who play hard. The Nicholas Claxtons of the world, Royce O'Neal's of the world. Markieff Morris is coming back, and not that he gives a lot, but Seth Curry's been out. He provides shooting. Joe Harris is still getting in. Getting in the shape of things. Cam Thomas really started the year weak, and now he's been doing a little bit. And it's not actually that bad, Bogues. I don't know what your thoughts are. That Watanabe kid, the Japanese
he
player.
Plays hard, man.
He does play hard. I didn't know much about him. I watched him. I don't watch Brooklyn a lot because my 2 clients play in the West, but watching him, and actually he just tipped a shot in as I'm talking to you, watching the Laker Brooklyn game now, but he plays hard. So look, I think when you have a bunch of guys who play hard with just one scorer and the ball just doesn't stop, I think that you have a chance. And look, they're playing hard, and those guys are just sort of playing their role. And yeah, good for Jacques Vaughn, man. you never really hear that story sometimes when guys get it. Like I think certain guys get second, third, fourth, fifth chances and they keep fucking it up. Like you never really hear a guy that just got a chance, fucked up the first chance, and got that second chance. And he got a second chance, and he's so far so good. He's doing well. Shit. I mean, look, who doesn't want to see Kevin Durant in the playoffs at a decent seed and sort of going? The guy's one of the best players in the league. Let it happen, especially with all the shit that they've been dealing with Kyrie and Ben Simmons and all this other stuff. And it's good for them to see a little bit of success.
It is. And just as we continue this on, Utah have gone down 103-98 to
jinxed him.
Philly. Yes. Joel Embiid has 57, 11, 8, and 7 blocks.
Damn.
Almost a quadruple-double. Amazing line. 19 for 28 from the field. Sensational line there. You won't see like a line like that for a long time. And as StatMuse says, it's might be ever, because it is the first time ever in NBA history someone's had that stat line. So good on Joel Embiid finding some form. All right, I want to scrap the last 2-minute report, Pro. I think this is the most pointless thing the NBA do. For those not familiar with what it is, every game the NBA does a last 2-minute report of what our officials got right and what they got wrong and what calls were right and what wasn't and blah, 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 blah. To me, I think it's a slap in the face to teams that got screwed on calls for the most part. And Sacramento have lost 2 games in that fashion where there were questionable calls late in the game. One was a Klay Thompson foul, and the other one I think was a travel against, was it Miami? Or someone else that hit a shot. But anyway, I don't see the point in this, Pro. If you're not going to change the result, if you're not going to fine your officials publicly because of it, if you're not going to make some sort of, adjudication towards a bad call, what's the point in putting it out? All it's doing is saying, before a media or a coach can come out and say, we got screwed on this call. It's like, yeah, we did it in our last 2-minute report. It's right there for you to read. It's like, yeah, but how does this help us? It doesn't change the fact that now it's cost Sac 2 games. Imagine it costs a team a playoff spot or something like that. So, and like I said, bad calls happen in sport. That's just scrap the 2-minute report. I don't want to. I think it's a cherry on top of the slap in the face, in my opinion, because you already know you got screwed on the call, and the NBA comes out and says, "Oh yeah, that call you got screwed on. You were right. You did get screwed on, but better luck next time." I don't know what your thoughts are on it, Pro, but I think they need to get rid of it.
Yeah, especially if you're not going to do anything with it. Like, look, players all the time are evaluated by their own team, they're in and out of the league, not the stars, but a lot of the other players are in and out of the league based on production. And I think that with referees, if you're going to continue, look, everybody's going to make a mistake. Refs going to miss. There's too many things they got to look at. We'll look for at every possession, in a game, not to miss some. Of course, they're going to miss some, right? But like if they got to be some type of a point system where if they make a lot of mistakes and they're not accurate in their calls, that they got to have to get punished by limiting their playoff games that they work. On the second thing is, look, I would do a suspension deal where you got to miss a game and with pay if you're not producing, and take you off a game here and there and say, look, you're the highest level referee in basketball right now. Like, you're at the highest level. You get paid a very good wage. And these 2-minute reports, like, if you keep fucking this thing up, we're just going to have to make changes. Like, we're going to have to evaluate you every year. And that's what you got to do. And like, but you got, if they keep messing things up consistently, you got to, they got to do something about it. And yeah, like, it's a slap in the face. Like, all right, you got screwed out of this call. Well, they're not going to change the call. They're not going to change what happened in the game. They're not going to change the win versus the loss. The only thing to me for the 2-minute, and that was never big on the 2-minute report or evaluating referees or whatever, but like, if you're not doing your job on a consistent basis and you're making mistakes and you're at the highest level, there needs to be some consequences. You got to continue to make the referees the best on the planet. They're the best league in the world in basketball. They gotta hold them to a higher standard. It doesn't matter if it's your best ref or your worst ref in the ranking. If they're gonna mess these things up, there's got to be some consequence. 1,000%, in my opinion.
Yep, agree. I think it's good for the players. You don't want to obviously disparage people from refereeing. We went on that spiel last week, but there needs to be accountability for officials the same way as players. And
Sure.
just quickly, so I don't get fact checked by some reason the Utah Jazz fouled and gave Joel Embiid another 2 free throws, so he finished with 59, not 57. Just so I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it, people. But moving on to the NBL, it was a week break. No games this weekend because of the Australian Boomers and the FIBA qualifiers, which, I mean, look, it's a privilege and an honor for people to represent their country, but some of these games, I don't see the point in them. Anyway, the Boomers beat Kazakhstan by 40 or 50. They then had to play Iran in Iran. With everything going on there right now, they forfeited that match, refused to travel there. So Australia doesn't know what FIBA is going to hand down now, as far as that goes. But smart decision by the Boomers with everything going on there. It's a mess, protests and all that kind of stuff. There's some killings and going on and whatnot, and probably not the best place to be for a basketball team. A bunch of 7-foot Australians and 6-foot Australians, so they pulled out of that. But anyhow, there's still some news in the NBL. Craig Randall, famously lit up the Phoenix Suns not too long ago, has been cut. He's been released by the Adelaide 36ers, which is very, very interesting. He's top 5 in scoring in the NBL with just over 20 a game, and they have moved him on. I mentioned 3 or 4 weeks ago on this podcast that I saw before I even knew anything was going on. I had a feeling that something was up because the body language of this guy was absolutely horrible. He was going back and forth with head coach CJ Brute numerous times when he gets subbed out of games. During the national anthem, their whole team would lock arms. He'd be the only one not locking arms with the whole team. He'd be standing by himself. It just seemed like if they weren't winning with him doing well, he wasn't going to allow them to win with him doing bad. It just didn't look good. And the ultimate kiss of death comes from my good friend Kerry Homicide Williams, NBL commentator, a guy I've gone back and forth with numerous times. He anointed the imports of Franks, Randall, and Cleveland, the Adelaide 36ers trio of imports, the best trio in NBL history ever.
Damn.
This was only a couple of weeks ago. Ultimate kiss of death. That trio now is a duo, and Homicide's prediction has gone with the win, pro. So the usual rule is, pro, in our league, if the Homicide Williams anoints you as something, that is a literal kiss of death. You're not gonna win a championship if he says you are. Your best 3, literally a week later, one's going to get hit by a bus and sent back to the US. Like, you don't want to be annoyed at anything by Kerry Homicide Williams. So the big 3 is gone. But interesting move for the Adelaide 36ers, pro. I know they've spent a lot of money on that roster. I don't believe he was guaranteed, which is a good thing for Adelaide. They don't have to pay him anymore. But they need to find a replacement, and quick.
What do you think happened, Bogues, in your opinion, truly, though? Like, I know what you're saying, like body language or whatever. Do you think it was just like he didn't get – now, has he – and again, I haven't followed his career that much besides what he did against Phoenix. Did he was he there for a while? Is this his first year?
No, it's his first year in Australia. I think he was a G League guy.
Okay.
I don't believe he's played it anywhere else overseas that I know of. But he's a player. Like, he's a gunner. He can play, man. The guy can fill him up. Like, when he's hot and he's in his zone, you look at what he did to the Phoenix Suns. He can do that. The problem is his best is unbelievable and his worst is like really bad. Not so much play wise, but culture, mentality. And so last season with the Long Island Nets, he went to, I'll give you a quick rundown. He went to Memphis for 2 years, transferred to UT Martin. I think it's Tennessee, right? Tennessee Martin. Undrafted, obviously, played a year in the G League. He scored 40 in a win over the College Park Skyhawks. He's a solid player. He's a gunner, but he's just not a pro. And I think that's one thing Homicide Williams, I'll give him credit for, said on the NBL Overtime show was, I didn't like homicide's spiel because apparently he reached out to Randall, they had a conversation, and then this guy's now aired it publicly, which he shouldn't do. But he said that he's a baller, he's not a pro, and I agree with that. He needs to tweak that to a point where he can be a good player. Now, what I heard, Pro, was this: I heard that what really happened coming into preseason, their preseason started as everyone else did, so it was preseason, the NBL Blitz preseason tournament. Then they went off to the US to play in those games, and then they came back for the NBL season. So they missed a round of NBL. My mail is that he, during training camp, there were already reservations about his attitude, even during training camp. But, there wasn't very many games. So they were like, you know what, it's practice, whatever. Once the game started, it'll change. NBL Blitz preseason, further reservations. So much so that there was some people talking about just peeling that Band-Aid off fast and cutting him then and there and looking for a new import. They didn't do that. They then go to the US and he lights up against the Phoenix Suns. Makes world news. There's big news here. Everyone in the NBL is talking about this big three. My mail is I think that Adelaide were then a bit gun-shy to cut him, and maybe you understand why. The guy just had a career game against the Phoenix Suns, the first ever NBL team to beat an NBA team. They were a bit gun-shy then to continue that conversation, and they kept him on. And I think there were a lot of people that were disappointed with that, and they kept him for 3 or 4 weeks, longer than they probably shouldn't have. And Adelaide aren't in the greatest of positions right now, but the season still is young and salvageable. But that's kind of my mail, Pro. They got lulled into one of those nights that Randall can have, and they didn't make a move with what they thought they should have previously.
Yeah. It's interesting. There's so much money to be made in this game, and people just think it's like NBA. Well, international is a lot of money to be made, but you have to be able to be a winning player, in my opinion, as an import. Like, I think if you go to China, they care a little less about winning and more about like stats-wise internationally, right? But like when you go, because I think Australia is very comparable to the European game as far as what they view important, in their game. Now, they do a little bit more with development with these younger guys with the program boat trying to get NBA draft pick, type of players. But like to be an international player and really survive in this, because think about it, you could play 9-10 years internationally. Your first year, you're not making that much money, but like usually after that, you make a lot of money that like from year 1 to year 2 is usually a huge jump. So you're talking probably about making an average of $400,000 or so on a 10-year span if you get to a high enough level. So, but you got to figure out how to be a winning player, how to impact winning, how to, be a coachable player, how to get along with teammates, even if you're faking it. I've seen some of the most deplorable motherfuckers, like fake being nice people and good guys and teammates. And that's okay. That's a good thing. Like if you're going to fake it, fake it. But you can't just like, yeah, he had this great game. That's one great game against Phoenix. But like now he gets cut from here. So say he goes to like Red Star next week or goes to another team and pulls the same shit, because look, everybody wants to win. Nobody wants to get fired. Like if they thought that he could win games for them, and they would have probably kept him. This isn't the NBA draft where you got to make a decision draft night. Like they had him in practice, they had him in workouts, they had him in games, and they finally made this decision. Obviously, it had to be something. But now as a professional, as a young professional, now it's like, all right, the first time you could blame them. Like you can go to your next place and say, all right, I blame them. Now what if it happens in another month where now you get cut again? Now you're almost like radioactive. Yeah, there's always a team. There's 8,000 fucking international teams you can play for. There's going to be another situation that you can win, you can go to. But like at some point, you got to look yourself in the mirror and say, yeah, maybe it's me and I got to change and I got to do something different. Because, yeah, you had one game. Who gives a fuck? Everybody forgot about that game already, like in the basketball world. So if you can't stick with a team, and you get cut, and this is an interesting deal. Like usually people get cut right around Christmas. That's when a lot of these like, transfer jobs happen and stuff. And he'll get another opportunity. But again, I didn't hear anything. And Homicide Williams thing is sort of like the Australian version of pro, because any team that I pick to win usually loses, and every team I pick lose usually fucking wins. So me and Homicide might have to go to Starbucks and share a coffee or something.
Must be an American thing, pro.
Must be an American thing. No fucking doubt about it.
Yeah. The ladder, just real quick in the NBL, I'll wrap this up. Sydney is sitting pretty at number one. They are the championship favourites right now by the bookies at $3. New Zealand are second. Cairns third. Southeast Melbourne are making a bit of a run here. They are fourth. Jack Jumpers are fifth with Scott Roth. Melbourne United have snuck into sixth. So the top six this season gets in pro. They're doing the playing thing for 5 and 6. Perth is seventh. Adelaide eighth. Brisbane ninth. And Illawarra 10th. What's interesting is Brisbane are ninth with 3 and 5, and the bookies have them at $5.50, bro. So they have them as the fourth favourite. So they have to get a really good run on here to even make the top four. But some bookies definitely like them having NBA presence. So pretty interesting there. Some games coming this weekend. We'll see how that all goes. Xavier Cooks is out for the Sydney Kings still, I believe. And the Illawarra Hawks, I think, what are they, 1 and 8? They've lost a boatload of games. They don't look very good. And some issues down there. Hopefully they can be a good game, and it's going to be a tough game coming off a break when you play a bad team, missing your best player. But hopefully Xavier will be back sooner than later. That's kind of the NBL. Not much to talk to there, really. Dabble is Betting Meets Social Media Pro, as you said earlier. Thank you to Dabble for being our sponsor here at Rogue Bogues. You can follow your friends, mates, stalk the experts, trending tipsters, scroll through trending bets, copy them all in one tap, get alerts when your mates and expert tipsters place bets, and most importantly, you can follow me, Andrew Bogut, all one word. Go on, download the Dabble app in the App Store, have a dabble socially, and gamble responsibly. Pro. Stats, useful or useless? You sent me this one. This was a good one. Russell Westbrook is leading the Lakers from 3 and shooting a career-high 36.2% from 3. Useful, useless?
I mean, in overall, it's pretty useless, to be honest with you, because you're fucking win about 2 games, but 3 games. But yeah, I think it's pretty useless, to be honest with you. It's just one of those things. He's not a good shooter. Everybody knows it, and he's making threes and they're not winning. But it's got very little to do with him. But yeah, I just think it's pretty useless. What do you think?
I think it's useless, but it's also useful to tell us how bad they shoot the 3. You've got Westbrook leading you from 3. Historically, a pretty poor 3-point shooter. They need some shooting down there. So we know that, but interesting nonetheless, considering how bad he started shooting the ball from 3. He's made his way back up. So you got to give credit to Westbrook that he's grinded his way back into a respectable percentage, and I think moving him to the corner on a lot of these sets has gotten that 3-point percentage better because he's shooting it pretty well from the corner. All right, KD in November, pro. 32 points on 56% field goals, 28 points on 47%, 27 points on 50%, 26 points on 50%, 29 points on 53%, 27 points on 63%. Useful or useless?
I'd say it's useful. What do you think?
Yeah, I'll go useful, and they're winning games. So their lineups have changed. KD's balling, scoring at good clips. This is a volume shooter, and the lowest percentage out of all those numbers that I stated was 47.6%. So that's impressive. He's shooting the ball at a good clip, gets to the line, and they're winning games. So I would say useful in that one. Last one for me, Steph becomes more clutch as the game goes on. First quarter, 7.2 points. Second quarter, 8.3 points. Third quarter, 8.5 points. And fourth quarter, 9.1 points. He leads the NBA in clutch points per game, bro. Useful or useless?
I'd say it's pretty useful, even though they're not doing very well. But I think that those numbers are pretty useful to figure out, like his clutch situation deal. What do you think?
Same, yeah. I think he's, I watched that last game of theirs against Sacramento. They're playing again today, but that last game where he wouldn't let him lose. It was reminiscent of that game 4 in Boston where he went crazy, knocked down a couple of threes and got him back in the game. And, he's clutch. When you need a big shot made, he has daylight. It's an impressive athlete to watch, one of the best in the world at his craft. And I think it's very, very useful. I think at times he I wouldn't say coast into games, but he lets other guys get involved, and he's not too worried about his own shot. And then there'll be that big spurt, bang, bang, bang. He gets in the game, and then fourth quarter he just takes over. So very useful. What do you have for us this week? Fact or fake news?
Bogues, Luka Doncic, 30. We talked about his usage rate and all that. 34 points, 9 rebounds, 8 assists. Luka will be the MVP of this season. This early on, we'll just talk about that. Luka Doncic is your MVP, will be the MVP at the end of the year. Fact or fake news?
Fact. I picked him. Hopefully I can get one of my picks right. I picked him as the MVP based on health, based on he's actually starting the season and playing all the games. You know, last season he was in the running for the MVP and he missed the first maybe fifth, sixth of the season. Didn't play a lot early on. Got hurt a little bit, did his calf and whatever. So the fact that he's healthy, putting up those numbers, I'm going to go fact on this one, Pro. You?
Yeah, I'm going to say fact. I think he's, in my opinion, the best player in the game. He's put up big numbers. They're going to be a team that'll be in the top 5. So it's not like he's going to put up all these numbers and they're going to be really bad. I think he's going to put up numbers. They're going to be good. And he just puts people in positions, and the guy's just electric to watch. I think he's the MVP for sure. So I say that's fact. Bogues, Utah Jazz, we keep talking about, we keep laughing about, because we figured they're going to be the worst team in the league to try to tank to get all those picks and things like that. What should we be talking about the Utah Jazz being a top 5 team in the West? I know it's early, but the Utah Jazz will finish in the top 5 of the Western Conference. Fact or fake news?
Oh, that's a tough one. I'll go fake news. I think a couple of teams will start to get some consistency and some form out west. I think Utah's taken a lot of people by surprise, and they have fallen to third now after their loss. So Portland's now number 1 in the West, by the way, as we speak right now. Phoenix second, Utah third. I think they're still too early in the season. They are 10-5. You still got Dallas below, Memphis, Denver, the Clippers, Golden State is all the way down the doldrums. So I'd like to think that, I think Dallas and Memphis will jump them, and I think potentially Denver will as well. So I will say fake news. They won't be there, but I think they're gonna scrape in a playoff/playing game. So they could maybe get 6. If not, they're going to be in a playing game. I just don't think they're going to fall to that bottom 5. Looking at it right now, I think the Lakers, you can put a line through 2-10, awful. Houston Rockets, the AAU team, as Pro said, awful. Golden State will jump out of there. Now Minnesota, they're 12th right now. I think they potentially jump into a plane. Sacramento will be around 11. I think the Spurs will fall back down to earth, and then OKC is the questionable one because they're winning some games lately too, and they're playing really, really well. So I will say, I think. Utah Jazz will fall out.
Yeah, I say so too. Obviously, they're in the hunt for what people are saying as a generational player. I won't say that yet until I watch them more. But I mean, there's really no reason for them to hang in there. It's really good publicity right now for them to do what they're doing. 10-4, taking people by storm. Everybody's talking about them. I'm sure people want to come see them early, and they're doing a great job without question because they didn't really have much. At the beginning of the year where people were thinking that they were going to be a competitive team. They've done a great job, first-year head coach. I think everything's sort of going their way. Now, that being said, they're only 2 games out of 7. So for sure that they're going to take a plunge with this. But I think they're going to be competitive. I think they might fight it for a while, but I think they're going to fit. They're obviously going to go to that bottom tier. Not probably the worst team in the league, but I think that they're going to, definitely fall on this for sure. So I could definitely see that. On another note, Bogues, we're talking about the Brooklyn Nets playing well and, under Jacques Vaughn and things. Right now they're, as it stands, without really tabulating like the other teams or how they did today. Right now I had them at 9th, in the East. Do you think that the Brooklyn Nets now, with the changes they've made, not knowing of course, if they're going to make any more trades, that they will finish in the top 5 in the East at the end of the year? Fact or fake? They will finish in the top 5. Fact or fake news?
Oh, fake news. I think Milwaukee and Boston are going to wrestle for one. Atlanta potentially. I'm still not sold on them, but they're playing better basketball. I think Cleveland will be up there. I think Philly's going to scrape in that. I think tops maybe 6, but as it stands right now, I think they could jump Chicago, Toronto, and Indiana, which would put them in 7. So I'll say fake news. They're definitely not getting 5. I think their best case is 6. I just don't think, uncertainty around Kyrie. Does he come back and just put his head down and keep quiet, play, and not cause any problems? The Ben Simmons saga coming off the bench. They're missing, obviously, a star player now. That's Ben Simmons. He's coming off the bench. Some of their shooters, they got a lot of guards. So the rotations are kind of all over the place at the moment. Patty's out of the rotation now, for instance. He's lost his minutes. Curry's back from injury. He's starting to find his feet. I've just read they're trying to remove Joe Harris, which is interesting. I think they'll be competitive. I think they're just going to be a bit more steady. They're not going to be as yo-yo-ish, but I don't think they're going to make the top 5, Pro.
Yeah, it's a tough one for me. I think right now there's a lot of room for them to grow a little bit for sure. Especially just moving on from what they're doing. But you don't know what's going to happen with Kyrie. Everyone has their idea. They're going to release him. They're going to trade him. He's going to go to LA, whatever. I'm not sure about that, but there are a lot of teams playing decent above them, like Washington and Indiana. You expect them just to sort of fall just a tad. And then teams like the Toronto Raptors are sort of right there, where they're at 7-7, and they could be playing better. Miami and Philly, I just think there are too many teams. I say fake news. There's probably just too many teams that are just going to figure it out. And I know right now they're playing really well, but I think they're going to come down to earth. Plus, there's a lot of pressure on Durant to bring it every night. Without really that second superstar with them. Again, you don't know what's going to happen with Kyrie. So it's going to be a lot. It's going to be very taxing physically. It'll be interesting to see. I don't see them in the top 5. I didn't even like them when they had Kyrie and KD. I didn't think they were going to be a great team or anything. I didn't think they were going to be a bottom dweller, but I thought they were going to be in that play-in range, even with those guys. So, I say it's fake news. I don't think they're going to finish in the top 5.
Agree. All right, that wraps up another episode of the Rogue Bogues Basketball Podcast. Please give us a follow on Twitter, Instagram, both at Rogue Bogues. On Facebook, we're Rogue Bogues. And check out Pro and his scouting film food promotion service. Just joking about the last part. At Hoop Consultants for some, if you need some film breakdown or whatnot, check that out. If you got young kids or teenagers, or you're trying to aspire to be a pro, send some clips and he will take care of you. Pro, anything else?
Yeah, I'm gonna give Steve a technical foul if he takes that food review fucking part out of your line. No, fucking Steve, keep that shit. No, nothing else.
The sound guy. The sound guy.
All right,
see ya.
Later.
Let's get rogue.